Observe closely. Matt has just gotten his hands on a Lamborghini, the most powerful banner in history. The Lamborghini and the precious SVJ. Oh my god! 770 horsepower, a pure naturally aspirated engine. No fancy electric motors involved, only the most primal Land Rover insurance. And this is not some concept car, but a real violent machine. This Lamborghini, only 1,800 units produced globally. The SVJ production is extremely rare. Its performance is off the charts, and its price has skyrocketed. Currently, the market is sold out. But this car has unfortunately been involved in an accident, a disaster for the owner, but an opportunity for Matt. A supercar once priced in the millions, now acquired by him for far below market price. This is luck combined with a sharp eye. If it's repaired well, it could be a legendary story. Oh, my love. For your cold decides in your comfortable body. That'll be cheap, yeah. This Lamborghini, the SVJ, is in a non-starting condition. It's a crashed vehicle for sale. Matt's biggest concern is that the engine might have seized up due to lack of oil. If it's broken, the repair cost would be catastrophic. The first feeling upon sitting in this car is like stepping into a spaceship. A Lamborghini of this level, he's never driven before. He's never personally handled one. But there's some unexpectedly good news. The front-end impact was indeed severe, but the airbags didn't deploy at all. After reviewing the recorder's playback, Matt discovered that the front collision sensors had indeed been triggered. The signal had already gone off, but the airbags didn't respond. For him, this saves a significant amount. It means the internal wiring and computer might still be salvageable, but for the original car owner, perhaps they are not as fortunate. Next, Matt must completely shut down the car's airbag system. To avoid further mishaps, he must test whether this SVJ still holds hope for revival. The owners of this car might have already noticed. This is not just any ordinary SVJ. It is a convertible version of the SVJ Rhodes. The roof structure has already fallen off, and this is exactly why it's rare. The SVJ itself is extremely rare, and the convertible version is even rarer. Its market value has soared. Matt has the chance to acquire this top-tier supercar at a bargain price despite its damage. It truly is a stroke of luck. The repair work is about to begin. Matt must restore this SVJ Roadster to its prime condition. When Matt first laid eyes on the SVJ Roadster, he thought it looked even cooler than Will's head. At least, it's free from all the flashy designs. The value of this car has been skyrocketing, especially since only 800 SVJ Roadsters were produced worldwide. Its rarity goes without saying, and this one that Matt owns still has the original moldy steering wheel. This configuration should be the only one in the world. However, this car has not been able to start since the accident. The cause is a problem with the wheel structure. But the situation is more serious. Matt also noticed something at the rear of the car. It seems to have visible burn marks. It's likely that coolant exploded at the rear, leading to a high-temperature leak. Fortunately, the carbon fiber diffusion area was covered by an invisible car coat, successfully blocking some of the flames. It saved the key structure. Now, Matt is ready to push the SVJ into the workshop for a more thorough inspection. From the outside, the damage doesn't seem too extreme. He's repaired worse than this. But his biggest concern is the engine's internal condition. If coolant exploded, the engine oil could have drained instantly under high RPM. It may have already caused serious damage. Besides this, it is also necessary to confirm the extent of the damage's spread. The left rear wheel has already tilted severely. The suspension structure has even been pushed up to the wheel rim. These suggest that the rear axle may have undergone major deformation. The first goal ahead is to see whether this car can still start. Of course, this is not a task that can be completed by one person, but to revive it, Matt must rely on himself. He will have to work through the night again. May there be mountains beyond the mountains. Okay, this absolutely none of that. These are gonna be low anyway. Matt currently dares not to start the car recklessly because after the coolant exploded, the engine is severely lacking oil. If he starts it in this condition, the consequences would be unimaginable. While disassembling the tires, Matt discovered that the SDJ is equipped with a center lock wheel hub. It requires special tools to disassemble. Matt does not have the tools and cannot remove the wheel. So he contacted his old friend Mark and borrowed the center lock tools. So his father went to retrieve the tools. While Matt stayed behind to continue disassembling the rear structure, he tried to start from the damaged area. The goal was to check the condition of the rear cooler. If the oil line is indeed broken, he would have to figure out a way to make a makeshift aviation device, bypass the cooler circuit, so that oil can be added and a start attempt made. But during the disassembly process, he noticed some more alarming details. This car had once been fitted with a non-original exhaust, although it looks like the original exhaust now. The rear camera, the tail light, and the exhaust temperature sensors were not connected to power. The entire rear wiring is a tangled mess. Not only that, but the bolts at the exhaust flange are mismatched. Clearly not the original specifications. Looking at the indentations on the screws, it is certain that this system is not in its original state. Matt speculated that the original owner might have made changes before the auction. In haste, the expensive modified exhaust system was removed. The original parts were hastily reinstalled. As a result, it was poorly installed. Many key sensors were not connected. Some parts were even damaged. Such actions not only affect the engine's operation, but may also hide deeper electrical issues. What is more concerning is that this exhaust system appears to be identical to ordinary wind models. If that is the case, it means the tail section is not an exclusive SDJ component, just like the tail sections of the 911 GT3 and GT3 RS, which cannot be interchanged. The SDJ exhaust has its unique specifications. Now, although this car is an SDJ Roadster, some parts have been replaced with ordinary vintager substitutes. Such behavior has brought considerable trouble to Matt. While the old man and Matt were still studying the structure of the wheel, Matt had already begun to disassemble the rear cooler. Most of the surrounding brackets had already deformed. The oil supply and return pipes had already fallen off. One of the pipes was completely broken. From the scene, it's likely that the return oil pipe was torn directly from the cooler's bottom during the accident. If it broke after the car turned off, the engine might still have been spared. But this oil cooler seems to be completely scrapped. The shell is severely deformed. Thankfully, after disassembly, the oil root structure became clear. The return oil pipe had clear signs of tearing, indicating that the break occurred under intense impact. Matt jokingly said to the old man, "This car bought with 70,000 pounds. You should be happy it's even running." But even so, the cooler still cannot be installed properly because the entire left rear wheel arch hasn't been fully disassembled. The interior also needs to be cleaned. The temporary goal is to simply connect the oil supply and return pipes, and use the existing interface to test if oil can be added. Then try starting the engine. At this point, Matt noticed another detail. This SDJ had suffered a severe front-end collision, but there was still coolant residue remaining. This suggests that part of the cooling system. It seems that the cooling system still has the potential for circulation. However, from the structure of the pipelines and the street status, this SDJ must undergo a complete cooling system inspection. At this stage, only temporary attempts can be made. Next, Matt decided to add a small amount of engine oil to test if it was capable of starting. But the situation was far more troublesome than imagined. Someone had hastily modified this car, used the wrong specifications for the lubricating oil, and unplugged key sensors, leaving many hidden dangers. Moreover, the car surprisingly had no tools for the center locking wheel rims. Matt checked, and a new tool set costs more than 300 pounds. He could only temporarily add oil, but not too much, because in the current glycerol state, extreme caution is required to avoid further damage to the infrastructure. At this point, the engine is almost completely in a glycerol state, with the oil pan completely empty. If it could still start under these conditions, it would mean that the engine structure might have miraculously survived for safety. Matt also specifically found the official jumpstart interface at the rear, using a jumpstart pack to provide power, to avoid directly impacting the original car battery system. If it successfully starts this time, then the SDJ's reconstruction plan will truly reach a turning point. Oh, this is sick. No girl, this is love. Who's that? Are we gonna do it? Here we go. Matt tried to start the SDJ, but as soon as he pressed the start button, the instrument panel immediately indicated low battery. Please charge the vehicle. At this moment, the car was in first gear. The startup system was completely unresponsive. He walked to the rear of the car and checked again to ensure the jumpstart pack was connected properly, but there was still no response. Next, he checked the vehicle's main fuse module, focusing on the ignition fuse. When the airbags deploy, this type of fuse automatically melts. The fuse is in good condition, but the problem might be in the battery capacity. The SDJ's battery is very small, and this is a 2-year-old naturally aspirated engine. Starting it requires a powerful current pulse. A standard battery can't handle it. At this moment, the rear jumpstart pack is still working, but Matt decided to install a second jumpstart pack at home. He directly connected it to the front cabin's original battery, trying to boost the voltage peak. Matt pressed the start button. The motor barely started moving, but it still didn't fire up. Matt judged that the voltage provided was still insufficient to start the V12. He recalled the common issues with La Venta doors. If the voltage stays too low for too long, the vehicle may automatically lock the starting process. It would need a special diagnostic tool to reset it. It's likely this SDJ has entered protection mode. It must use the Lamborghini exclusive diagnostic system to unlock the electronic control logic and allow a new attempt to start. But right now, this toolset is not available. The start attempt failed again. Matt smiled wryly, feeling like this SDJ wouldn't let him off without draining his wallet. Perhaps it wasn't going to come back to life so easily. Matt checked the battery and noticed a module on the right side. This was the supercapacitor. Its purpose is to provide extra current for a small battery during cold starts, especially when there are frequent starts or in low-temperature environments. It helps the vehicle start quickly, but the issue is after long periods of disuse, the supercapacitor itself loses charge, and once it's out of power, it cannot transfer voltage to the starter motor. The car will naturally fail to start. However, there's still one way to temporarily bypass the capacitor system. Matt disconnected the supercapacitor's cable and directly connected a 12 volts jumpstart power to the starter motor. He only aimed to perform a forced start attempt. The result was still a failure. Matt began to doubt whether the engine had seized completely. This could be the beginning of a very complicated repair process. After completing the operation, the result was still a failure. At this point, Matt began to suspect whether the engine had seized up. Because the starter motor couldn't even turn the engine, he decided to enter from the bottom of the vehicle and directly test the starting system. Fortunately, this SDJ uses ISR, an automatic manual transmission with a single-clutch hydraulic shifting system. In theory, as long as the ECU is bypassed, the starter motor can be powered directly, and by simulating the ignition signal, the motor can be forced to turn. Matt disconnected the solenoid's signal wire and connected his homemade wiring. He manually activated the starter motor. The 12 volts battery was ready. The crocodile clips were connected. In the next moment, the starter motor began. The engine rotated smoothly. The engine didn't seize up. Matt immediately let out a sigh of relief. Next, he turned on the ignition switch, having his brother press the brake pedal simultaneously. They attempted the second ignition using manual mode. In an instant, the starter motor ran again, but the engine still didn't truly start. At this point, the car was still stuck in first gear. Matt realized that the starter motor was not only turning the engine, but was also trying to push the entire car forward. The voltage was severely lowered, not enough to sustain the ignition system's operation. He replaced it with a higher power jumpstart pad and tried to start it for the third time. The result was still a failure. Now, the problem has become more complex. First, it's stuck in first gear and cannot switch to neutral. Second, the car still can't start. Matt decided to connect the diagnostic tool to read the error codes. Surprisingly, the reading was successful, but the alarm showed two irrelevant error codes. Rear wheel steering system failure. Exhaust sensor disconnected. None of these would prevent the ignition. In theory, as long as it can enter neutral, the vehicle should start smoothly. But here's the problem. The transmission doesn't allow switching to neutral. Matt urgently contacted Lamborghini's technical expert, Sonny. The other person is the head technician at BHP Performance, who has been studying the SDJ system for a long time. But unfortunately, the SDJ does not have a public forced neutral switching program. Even the factory engineering tools can't solve this. Matt had to think like Sonny. Standing from the perspective of Lamborghini's system logic, he tried to crack the car's defense mechanism. Now everything depended on him. This video ends here. You can discuss the content of the video in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Justin, Jamie Dodgers. The real flavor is raspberry. You just think it's strawberry.